Hi there, Ezekiel here. As the entire world of finance holds its breath to see what will happen next to the United States' self-inflicted Trumpian economic collapse, all over the world, financial advisors are having to deal with their customers having a total meltdown, as their investments and pensions disappear overnight before their very eyes. A certain someone over in the UK seems to have found a very creative solution to the ongoing crisis. I am, of course, referring to Lady Hortensia, Crawfish Dunn. Double N! Has it really been just over 100 days? Ooh, such a lot has happened. What an insufferable, blancmanged-brained arsehole, as Granny would often say, and Granny was never wrong. Just a few months ago, I had a portfolio of investments that brought me in a yearly income of several £1,000s. But now, my pension is worth almost nothing, and all of my investments have hit rock bottom. I've had to make efficiencies. It's been very difficult. I even toyed with the idea of selling my Fabergé egg collection. Things got so bad. In the end, I settled briefly for making 6-egg omelette cooking videos and posting them on MAGA websites in the United States. I got bored with that, though. I've had to make some incredibly hard decisions. Do I sell the Pizarros or fire the head gardener? Oh, I finished him 10 weeks ago. Well, he was over 70, ready for the knacker's yard. It was a blessing, really. I kept the younger gardener, the one I hired to help with the tree planting just after the Prigozhin incident. But I told him it may not be permanent, thanks to the mad MAGA moron over the water. I decided in the end that I would have to find some form of employment. I tried everywhere. Marks and Spencer's, Pret-a-Manger, the NHS. Things got so bad, I even considered Greg's. They all turned me down. Bloody ageist, every one of them. I told the NHS I would get a great deal of pleasure out of sticking needles into the members of the public, but to no avail. I was sat in my conservatory, reading the last of my rejection letters, when the young gardener approached me. He said that he may have a little sideline that could prove lucrative for minimal effort, if I was interested. He said that he had contacts and would put in a good word for me. It was all terribly exciting. I had training and everything. And as a result of my efforts, I managed to get a part-time job at my age. Did I mention I'm 102? My official title was County Lines Worker. They even supplied me with a uniform. Well, I had to look the part. So I put on my cream LS tracksuit and matching trainers. They, no one really knows who they are, offered me one of those little leather man bags to put over my shoulder, which I thought made me look a little camp and conspicuous. I told them that I had a much more discreet designer bag that I could empty and put the 150 rats in. It would be safer, as no one would think of grabbing a person of my age where I keep that bag. It contains my 150 rats at £10 a wrap, and if I sell them all, which I always did, I made £150 a day, tax-free. If you asked me what a wrap is at that time, I would have said I have no idea. But they were very popular I was targeting the local school and the pensioners' tea dance on Tuesday afternoons. The stuff sold itself. I was almost beating them off. The pensioners were the worst, always trying to delay payment or looking for a discount. I had to be rather firm with them and put on my dealer's voice, which I was trained to use. Now then, there's no such thing as a discount, you fucking numpty. You pay up now or the lads will be round yours to remove that hip you had replaced last year without fucking anaesthetic. All right? It worked every time. I suddenly had a surge in orders from the teaching staff at the school. I think the chemistry teacher got wind of what was occurring. He clearly has a large circle of friends, as I had to up my supply by another 50 wraps to 200 a day, and they sold out every time. I thought I'm going to have to order a bigger designer bag from my designer friend, Urini Medica. I've done my sums and a few future projections, and I have to say, it was making me a lot more than my investment portfolio and pension, and in only a few hours a week. I'd already reached my first target, which was to upgrade to black Hugo Boss tracksuit and matching trainers. They were very good employers. They even trained me up to use a drone. Terribly good fun. So I could do drops into the local penitentiary. I thought of myself as a self-employed social worker, really, helping people in need. The young gardener had been working miracles and had set to repairing the large glass house which runs along my walled garden. It's been in a state of disrepair for some years, but with my newly reinvigorated finances, I could now afford to replace the numerous glass panels that he needed to fix it. Before long, it was looking as magnificent as I remembered it looking in my childhood. He was full of ideas and suggested growing tropical plants to sell to the public and starting a small market gardening business. He showed me some really lovely images of a shrub he thought would prove particularly popular with the public. It was called the Borrachero shrub. It has beautiful, large, creamy yellow trumpets flowering on it. It looks so lovely. I could see the attraction. He said that he would give me a link so that I could order them on the worldwide interweb. So I did. Dear oh dear, if only I'd known. I had to put a special code in to get my free sample in the post. It was all very odd. I put in the code Colombia, and then, as per the instructions, waited for a reply into my email inbox. All terribly technical. After a day or so, I had an email in my inbox from Pedro. I think his surname was Sinaloa, something like that. He said my borracheros would arrive in about 8 days via the Amazon, and I should get my free sample in the post shortly. The young gardener seemed really pleased and began to prepare the soil in the greenhouse for the borrachero plant's arrival. After about 3 days, I received a rather strange small package in the post, which I had to sign for. It said, "Handle with care," on the outside, and when I opened it, it contained a wrap, not dissimilar to the ones I sell at the pensioners' tea dance. Only this one had a skull and crossbones on it, and one of those strange signs that suggested it may even be radioactive. I began to feel a little uneasy in its presence and decided to put it away somewhere discreet, so I stashed it into my designer bag for safekeeping, whilst I did further discreet research on the Borrashedo shrub. Well, imagine my horror when I discovered that the flower of the Borrashedo shrub contains one of the most dangerous psychoactive substances known to man. It's a terrible thing. It's known colloquially as devil's breath or scopolamine, particularly prevalent in Bogota, Colombia. The seeds of the flower are used to create a powder that, if even breathed in, works in seconds to leave you completely devoid of free will and open to any suggestion. It leaves you in a trance state for at least 24 hours, and sometimes even longer. And when you come out of the trance, you have no memory of what has occurred. Your memory is completely wiped. People have woken up and have had their organs removed. Appalling. If someone tells you to jump off a cliff, you would just do it. Monstrously dangerous. It's also used for other nefarious exploits of a sexual nature that are too awful to contemplate, really. Utterly shocking. They use the powder by blowing it in your face or slipping it into your drink, as it's tasteless, usually to rob people who, once under the influence, are told to hand over their credit cards and give them the PIN number, and you're apparently powerless to resist, and go along to the ATM with them and withdraw your cash for them, apparently whilst appearing to be conscious and articulate. Good God, I thought, what have I got myself into? And what on earth is my gardener thinking? I decided that I must keep calm and not give anything away to him. I discreetly arranged a meeting with my friend Sir Richard, who I used to do post drops for when I was much younger. He suggested that as I had apparently purchased devil's breath on the dark web, don't ask, it might be wise for me to get legal representation. Too sweet. Then he said that all of this could prove to be a very auspicious opportunity to do some good works, if I was willing to play along, and might do me some good if this situation ever came to court. I agreed, of course, so we made a plan. A few days later, the Borrashedo plants arrived, and my gardener set about enthusiastically planting each one. I, in the meantime, had prepared a little cake and a cool beverage for him, which, unbeknown to him, contained just the right amount of powder in it, put there by the chemist who worked for Sir Richard, who I had let into my house earlier in the day, before the gardener arrived for work. Sir Richard and his team were ensconced in my library, watching proceedings on hidden cameras. The wrap had been in their possession since our meeting, as it was considered far too dangerous to have in my designer bag. After finishing the planting of the Borrashedos, I invited the gardener into my conservatory and produced the refreshments. He drank his cool drink, and within a few seconds, something almost imperceivable occurred. He seemed to relax and sit back in his chair, chatting about the weather, all very childlike. Sir Richard walked into the conservatory with two gentlemen who I think were police detectives from the drug squad, followed by the chemist, who quickly removed the remaining drink from the scene. Sir Richard introduced himself to the young gardener and said that he just required as much information about his phone as possible, including the PIN number. Also, details about his bank account, including the access PIN, etc., and that it would be very helpful to them. Also, that he would really appreciate the names of his contacts and access to his home computer and any drugs they may have hidden anywhere. What followed was extraordinary to observe. After handing my gardener a pen and paper to write all of his details down, he set about doing just that, cheerily chatting away and giving out names and addresses, which the detectives accompanying Sir Richard were frantically writing down and conveying back by radio to other police involved. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. It was like watching a child at school, eagerly trying to impress his teachers. Extraordinary. After a few hours, the team seemed very satisfied with the results that they had gathered from my gardener. Sir Richard then told the gardener that he would not remember any of what had just occurred, or where it had occurred, and that he would not remember me, or where I lived, or any of the people he had seen today. The gardener just smiled and said, "OK." Then Sir Richard told him to follow one of the detectives, who would give him a lift to his house, which by then had been thoroughly searched and cleared of drugs. Sir Richard then told me that I should not worry, as things would now move rather rapidly. Within a week, there were stories on the news about how the British intelligence services, working alongside the American FBI and certain countries in South America, had managed to infiltrate and completely destroy an entire drugs cartel that had been operating out of Colombia, with branches in Mexico, America, Canada, Asia, Australia, and Europe. Hundreds of people around the globe had been arrested. Millions of dollars of currency was involved, and tons of drugs worth hundreds of millions of pounds had been taken off the streets around the world. In light of the success of this global operation, it was decided that my name should be kept out of further proceedings to protect my anonymity. Henry Fawsley, my KC, had made representations to the court on my behalf and told them that if I had not brought it to Sir Christopher's attention, it might never have been successful, and that I was in fact the vital component in this operation's success, and through my courage and cooperation with the police and security forces, I had probably saved the lives of thousands of people around the globe. Pedro Sinaloa was captured and is now in jail without any chance of parole. He had a bounty of $500,000 on his head, which was decided should go to me, as it was my action and my information from my email that proved he was the main driver of the global drug network. I tell you, it's like winning the lottery. Dear, oh dear. Henry Fawsley, Casey, earned his rather extortionate fee that day in court. I did, however, have to be put on probation for a 6-month period, assuming I live that long, for supplying marijuana to minors and pensioners. That awful, smelly stuff was in the wraps I was selling. I dread to think how many people I've set on the way to oblivion. Well, that's where it begins, you see. Just a little weed, as it's known. Harmless enough, they say. And before you know it, it's responsible for the collapse of an entire country's mental well-being. I tell you, it's the substance behind every conspiracy theory on the planet. We now have Kush in Africa, fentanyl in America and Canada, crystal meth and cocaine in Europe and South America, and the devil's breath, magic mushrooms, ayahuasca my arse. We're all living on a narco-planet. You can't avoid it. It's everywhere. The devil's breath. A truly shocking thing to come across in one's life. On the other hand, I could see the benefits of such a drug. This is strictly entre nous, but I had in fact, unbeknown to Sir Richard and Henry, requested a few more free samples from Colombia before the court case, purely for emergencies. I had Henry Fawsley, Casey, and Sir Richard over to say thank you, with a little celebratory champagne to toast our success. I managed to persuade Henry Fawsley, Casey, to waive his legal fees, which were considerable as usual. He's no idea he's done it. It's a victimless crime, really, isn't it? I mean, how can you be a victim of a crime you have no knowledge of? Or a criminal you can't remember? When in fact, it was you who went to your own bank balance and gave it to them willingly, even enthusiastically. The upside of all of this is that my finances have been transformed, and as a result, I don't have to do the school run anymore. The downside is that I can't really attend the tea dance on Tuesday afternoons, not without being accosted by some desperate pensioner. Hey-ho, did I mention I'm 102?